Okay, welcome back. We're going to continue our discussion of using musical time with the transport and changes to the metro object and make note to express duration as note duration values, rhythmic values. So I'm going to close my global transport window because I don't really need it open. Move my transport over a little bit. And I'm going to simplify this a little. I don't need the number in the tempo message. I'll just stick with the attribute inspector. Okay, so I'll have the same control I had before, but now I need to focus on the metro object and make note. So let's go over here, start with metro. I'm going to delete the time argument. I'm going to use duration. So let's use a 16th note. And these values are in reference. I'll put a list up, but I'm going to use 16 in. And so that stands for 16th note. 4 in would be a quarter note. Let's go to 16 in. Let's go for 8 in, 8th note. And then I'm going to change down here in make note to the same duration. And now I can, like my patch, start my global transport. Doesn't matter if I rewind or not, but I can see it's moving. Let's do quarter note, 4 in. Start this again. Met transport's still running. So I'm going to do the quarter notes because I was going pretty fast here. The duration is an 8th note, play every quarter note. Now, if I stop the transport, the metro stops because the metro max cannot interpret a rhythmic value if the transport is not running. Max is doing a little translation. It's taking the transport tempo and the number of units, and it's figuring out actually a millisecond time to play in the metro behind the scenes. And so if the transport's not running, 4 in is meaningless. Can start and stop the metro, and it keeps going. So now I want to do a little bit more to just show you how I can use the metro that's playing my note to also set up a little automation and show me where I am. So I'm going to stop this, start this. It's playing quarter notes. And you saw the beats advancing, and every 4 beats it would advance the bar. The units were stuck. This was the delay in the time it took me to click on the transport start and the metro start. And it was probably more like a beat and 443 units as I went through. And it was, since it started at 2 when it started outputting locations. All right, so that's working pretty well. Let's turn off transport and rewind. Now, I don't have to have the toggle. If I want the metro to be playing whenever the transport's playing, I can use an attribute for the metro to start automatically. And I'll unlock the patch, delete the toggle. If I look in the reference, you'll see there's a list of attributes here. Active, auto start time are the big ones. I can have different named transports, so I can have different tempos going on at the same time. I'm just going to use one for now. But what I want is the active attribute, and I'm going to actually type it as an argument rather than put it in as an attribute inspector. So I get to the end. After my metro argument for time, duration value, I'll use the @ sign to specify that this is an attribute, and it shows me what attributes I have. I can choose one, and I need to tell you whether it's activated or not. The flag is a 0 for off or a 1 for on. I'm going to say activate 1, active 1, which means that whenever the transport's on, this metro will be on. And we'll see it bang and get reports back on time. So if I rewind, start the transport, now you see I'm perfectly in sync. Metro started exactly with the transport. So the bangs are reporting the beats right on the beat. Rewind again. I can go back and change the argument to eighth notes. Change the duration and make note to a 16th note. Still a little staccato. Go back in here, start the transport. And you see it advancing every 240 units within the beat. Automatic. Now, how would I change duration? So I could change duration with a message box. I have to send it text. And in Max, text we call text a symbol. So I could create messages like 4N and another message for 8N. Even, let's say, triplet. So that's a message, and we'll say 8TN, which is for a triplet note. And I can hook these all up, same to the right inlet. That's my time interval. I'll leave the 16th. Doesn't have to change. Start. Okay, so sorry, that was a little bit loud as I went in. I think I gave it the wrong message. I'm pretty sure I did. So I'm going to get rid of this for now and just deal with the simpler note values. And in fact, because it went really crazy, I will change the value. And see, I'm off now because I didn't rewind the transport. So there's a little delay before when the transport starts in the metro right now. I can deal with that for the purpose of this. But what I need to do is simplify how I would make these argument changes. Going to go back, change the patch back to the piano. Now, I'm going to show you two new objects. And these objects can help you store a list of text items, list of text symbols, and use them. In this case, we're going to store duration values, and you can use then the output to control the time duration for metro and for make note. So let's go up here. And the object I want to add first, I'm going to move these over. First object I'm going to add, I'm going to move these over this way and get them out of the way. It's called umenu. It's a user menu, pop-up menu for selecting items. It's empty by start, so there's nothing that's going to pop up. But let's select it, go to the inspector, and we can put items into it by editing in the inspector. So items, I'm in the inspector, I've selected the U menu, items, edit, it's empty, and so I can give note values. Let's say half note, quarter note, eighth note, 16th note. And I've separated my values with commas. Say OK. Now you see that I have these things in a menu, and I can choose from them like I could in any pop-up menu. All right. So umenu is going to send out the location of whatever's chosen, and it starts counting at 0. Out its left outlet. So that's the item location. That's the number of that item in the list starting at 0. Out the middle, it's going to send the actual text itself. And I can show you that. Instead of using print, I'm going to use a message box. I'm using the right inlet. So the symbol will come in and replace the contents of message. And then I'm also going to have it go to the time argument for Metro and the time argument for MakeNote. And now, select that. And stop. So, changing values by sending text, a symbol, to Metro, to MakeNote, storing it in this pop-up menu. So that works. Let's make some room with this. I'll show you another way of storing symbols and choosing. So the pop-up menu only shows you one thing at a time until you click on it, and then you see all your choices. You can move down. There's another object called tab, and the helpful explanation of tab control. What that is the choices all list out. So I've got it selected. I do the same thing in the inspector, go to items. It actually is in values, and this is one of the little inconsistencies of Macs that I hate. The values of your tab items, but this should be items like umenu is items. One more thing I hate is now if I go edit, tab separates its arguments or items in a list with spaces, whereas umenu uses commas. So you just have to keep that in mind. If you ever kind of lose track, when you add a new one, you can look at it and see there were no commas. So let's go add the same things. Half note, quarter note, eighth note, 16th note. And when I say OK, I'm now going to have 4 items in my tab. I can move them around so they're vertical. I can have rows of 2 and 2. Let's leave the 2 and 2. Same outlets. I have out the first one is the item index or its location in the list. It reads top left to right, next row left to right, and so on. So I'll see the same things here if I click on 2 in, and it highlights when I click on it. 4 in, 8 in, 16 in. It highlights, and then out the middle is the item symbol. So I can bring the message box over here in the right inlet, and then do the same thing. So I'm going to go over here. Hook up my tab, then do a new one to the make note, and now pick a value, start the transport. And you can see the text is updating, item index location is updating, and you hear the rhythmic value changing in the output of the Metro. There's a little bit of a delay, especially when I go from, say, the half note to a 16th note. And the reason for the delay is Metro updates its value when it outputs a bang. So if it's in the middle of a half note and I change the duration value argument, it will not update that argument until it sends out its next bang. So you have to wait until the half note is done. It's not an instantaneous updating. That's the virtue of the cool inlet. Stores the value. On the next bang, it updates its tempo. Make note just stores it. It's waiting for a number to output a duration. And so you have that. So giving you two ways to send the note values with the umenu and with the tab. You don't need all the things to see because you can see what you've selected up here. I'm just trying to show you what's coming out and that you can send these things to the metro and the make note. Now you have the ability to use musical time to express this in any patch, but you have to in any patch you want to do. Let's take one, for instance, went too far up. Let's go open a recent patcher, like um, the LCD. Now I'm going to save this because I don't need two things. The transport will run across Windows, and I'm going to save it and close it, then bring this back up. Now I have my make note and my metro here and here. If I add in, and just to remind you then what I was doing, when it's down, and it clears, and it's playing from the metro, so when my mouse is down, the metro turns on. Okay, so I'm going to make some changes. I need the transport object. I don't really need where I am in time, but I do need the toggle. And really I need this toggle gate to control. I don't need this. I'm going to move the toggle gate. So now whenever I'm lock the patch, whenever I'm drawing, it turns on, and it would turn on the transport. When I let go, it stops. Let's go, could use a tempo attribute. Open up reference. It's a little big. Let me bring this inside the window. So let me bring my tempo. If I wanted to change that. And that's it for the transport, my minimal approach. Now my metro and my make note. Let's just take the metro and put it over here. So my metro and make note I can control, and let's control them with the tab object. Can see all my values. And let's just make it in the inspector 3 choices. Under values, let's have quarter note, eighth note, 16th note, spaces, no commas, and then have its middle outlet, which is the symbol that's stored that I've selected, go out. And let's then set up changes to my metro and my make note. So to know it's using musical time, you have to give it a musical time argument. Same for metro. It needs a musical time argument. It also needs the active attribute with the value of 1 so that it turns on. So let's say it's eighth notes. Sixteenth note. And I have a little bit of an issue about selecting because I have to stop, come over here and select values. The tab object also responds to inputs, number input, which would select that item in the list. I'm going to use my my computer keyboard. So I'm going to say key. Is that the ASCII? I'm going to subtract 48 because that will make number 1 on the keypad or on my keyboard or keypad is ASCII code 49. 2 is 50. So if I subtract 48, and I should get, I'm playing 0, 1, 2. Then I can hook that here, and now 0, 1, or 2 can be done for the MIDI keyboard. So let's lock the patch. Got it on 16th notes. And control it while I play. So I think that's enough. It's probably turned into a very long video, but we can see what we can do with Musical Time and modify any of our current patches. There you have it.